Aaron and I know each other for 5 years now. This concept idea came along when both of us were in UHMC. Aaron was a student and I was a teacher. And in Kaya Ike building in my college, there was a big poster presentation once with huge posters of people and their stories. And that was the Kalau Papa. And I just moved from Chicago, and Auntie knew not much about Hawaii, the big stories. And first thing was, I asked Aaron and others, like, what is this? And the auntie was sitting there, and she explained it to me. And for me, it hit really hard that a mountain, a hill in Molokai can have that much history. And so started a small app that we just did as a classroom project. And then my other Hawaiian friends joined in, Dr. Kelani Cook, and was born Mamua. So apologize for the simple presentation. I managed to crash my laptop, so quickly made it yesterday. Sounds like a story out of a classroom, right? I don't know. Just to give that excuse to me. Okay, so Mamua, what is our core values and why are we doing this? Because we realized that every stream, every building, every cross-section has a history and story to be told, especially Hawaii is so rich, and that through at least short texts, we can get introduced to that cross-section, to that hill, to that water stream. That's how natives, especially in Hawaii, but Polynesia and everywhere, would give their stories and their culture to the young ones. And it's place-based and personal and geographic. So those are the stories we're focusing on. And it's also that we felt that no history book could do a better job in telling the story of Kalaupapa, for example, than the people who experienced Kalaupapa. So we were in Makawao, we spent a lot of time in Makawao, and there is a booklet that they published on Kalaupapa. And in that there was a story about this person, a Hawaiian person, who was looking for his great-grandmother lineage, and she was taken to Kalaupapa. And she was so young when she was taken that she actually remarried and had a different last name. And she had kids from that marriage. And it's a touching story when he finally finds her tomb. So we'd like to give voice, at least some sort of recognition to those stories, and hopefully bring more knowledge as passed down digitally. Now we also realize that because we're looking at short texts of large quantities, this can grow very quickly. And it can become very ugly in terms of presentation. You can have thousands, if not tens of thousands of stories. So we introduced something called law of large numbers, being the geeks we are. And I'm going to present very briefly what that means and how we can use it. So our main reason to do it is to give people a platform to share their place-based history. And not that this has not been done before, but it's been curated very well. And we tried to do it so that we can just give it to the public. Of course, there's the larger question about how do you know what's accurate and what's not, and we're going to try to touch on that. And that's going to be a moving target we're trying to solve as you go on. And historically, a lot of the history of Hawaii has not been told, and focus has been in classrooms on the federal and the larger history rather than the place-based history. And we also feel that this is a good way for the young ones and the older ones to bond together. Because when we made the app first, it came out as a mobile app, and my uncle who was 8810. He opened his Nokia flip phone and said, how do I use this? I was like, oh, uncle, you can't. So we started making a web app. So then his granddaughter is now helping him do it. Very quickly about our philosophy behind what it is, why we call it Kawa Mamua. It basically means time behind us, and Kawa Mahope, time in front of us. In the native culture, it is believed that as you focus in the history, we're better able to move into the future, to which our backs face. And our vision is to develop a technology platform where personal histories of any kind can be shared and interconnected. And we identified this problem as not having a proper framework for people to present or share their information themselves, or rather go through textbooks of historians. So we're trying to give this to people to have the information fed in directly by the people. So obviously that comes with a host load of problems that we're going to discuss. Okay. I'll just go over this. Just to give you an example of, what kind of scale we're talking about. There are 1,000 Heiau temple sites alone in Hawaii, which all have their own stories and own history of each family.
So basically, the app itself is, long story short, right? We have, I'm part Hawaiian too. We have people teaching us from kupunas and everybody else up. When they pass on, a lot of that information goes along with them. This website is here to help us kind of document the history of everything else, preserve the history and everything. So when we go through, so we have a lot of apps that are out there on the market right now. So we got Wikiwood, Go Hawaii, Back in Time, and Finder, which you all know, and everything else. The difference between us and them is that we're trying to incorporate the law of large numbers. So how do you correlate? This is the question that's probably coming up. If you're letting everybody input this inside of your app, how do you know what is good or not, right? I mean, anybody can post whatever it is. See, as the law of large numbers goes, the more pins that you have,
As you have to sum up.
yeah. Anyway, the more pins that you have, it gravitates more towards the truth. So if more people say one thing, that's all there is to it. That's the overall concept of what we're going through with our website.
All right, thank you. All right, judges, 5 minutes for questions.
I have a question about organizing the data. So it sounds like when you're talking about the pins, is it by geolocation
Yeah.
for the different stories? Okay.
Yeah, so actually we have a slide for that. So that's how it's going to look. That's our vision. So it's going to pin a location, and then you can click on it and show a short text about it.
Do you have a keyword search?
Yeah, we want to implement that. We haven't done that. This is just the basic that we could get as far as we can. There are a lot of questions that we have to answer about this. So.
Can you give me a history on Kawa Mamua LLC?
We started, like I said, in Maui, and we started because we had this run into the Kalaupapa restoration team, and we found out that this is something useful that they can use. It started off like that, and it started growing from there. And after that, it just became something that more people wanted to use and wanted to feed information in, and basically that's how it grew. It's just myself, Aaron, Kekoa, Dr. Keilani Cook from West Oahu. He was in Maui then.
So basically,
And
it's pretty much from educators that we know. I mean, I was a student once after I graduated. I moved on to my own job. Dr. Meadow contacted me. He's all like, "Hey, you want to start coding on top of this? Sure, why not?" And it gives the, I'm part Hawaiian, and I don't see many Hawaiians nowadays getting into innovation. This allows us the opportunity to get into the coding scene, Python, all of this upcoming stuff, and see what's going on inside of the real world, rather than just doing it on top of, the classroom and whatnot.
So Aaron, Kalaupapa is already aggregated with stories.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what is that database? How many stories
See, the database is
just for Kalaupapa? I'm just
So
curious.
we discontinued that, and we restarted as a web app. So we don't have that data anymore. We just made it as a classroom project for them to use. We were not going to go any further than that.
Got it.
But
So
after that,
it's not a jumping off point conceptually of what you're doing. So it's separate.
It's
Right, the
separate,
concept
but it
is-
can also be incorporated
Yeah.
at the same
Yeah,
time.
just curious. Yeah.
yeah. So it was mostly for them to use personally. We didn't even think of putting it on the web or anything at that time. So the whole software is now obsolete because Google doesn't support that anymore. Yeah, you can go to www.kawamamua.net, and so it's a prototype app. It's just a proof of concept. People can sign in, can use it, but all you have is just that. So you can basically just put things. Today, the first people presented one of their homes is a historic site, so they put a little thing in Lahaina. So we have that. But we also want to assert that we are just like a go in between. We're not trying to be like the site that gives Hawaiian history. We're trying to get this introduced to the people so people can use it, and hopefully can put links to like data stories, Aina Haida. We met them through Mamua, and they have these deeper connections, deeper knowledge. We can connect to those sites if people show interest.
Yeah, and just like you said, this is more, aggregated.
Yeah.
It's more of a prototype to go across all platforms.
Yeah.
So we're trying to merge everybody into one.
Drive more traffic and get more people interested in wanting to know the story of where they're standing. So,
Got time for a couple more, if you guys have questions.
You guys touched on this briefly. If you guys could explain a little bit more about the law of large
yeah,
numbers.
so essentially, there is, the idea is that as more data points are collected about any phenomena, there's a better representation of it, right? And the magic number is 30. It's called central limit theorem. So if you have 30 different independent inputs about any given event, let's say we talk about Kalaupapa, somebody's story, or just Kalaupapa, those 30 can now, if they're independent, start gravitating towards the truth based on the commonality between them.
So basically, it's more of a medium or average. So as more key points are hit on each different input, as it goes up, it's going to gravitate towards what everybody else is saying. So the majority rules.
Yeah. So if you look at the commonality between all those 30, that is the prevailing truth. And that's the part we are working on now.
Great, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.